This conference will now be recorded.
And I'll turn it over to Mike.
Okay, thank you everybody for signing up and joining us today. I'm still trying to figure out if I'm doing that good a job or everybody's just bored as heck and listen to anybody talk about anything. With that said, we'll get started here. Starting with the 68s. The rims on the 68s, the early rims was not dated. There was just the AG, which stood for a 15 by 7-inch rim to the right of the valve stem. And that lasted, or there was no dates usually till around the end of November. At that point, they started dating them. This rim here is from a December of '67. You can see the the information along the left side of the valve stem hole there with the manufacturer's plant, and then the dates underneath it. It's kind of different with the manufacturer plant and stuff above the date on this. That was in December, and it's still like that in March of '68. The date was still underneath the K1. I've got a rim here from July that they moved the K1 off to the side of the 8 on that. These were painted a bright silver color on the rally rims for '68. They had a what they called a BB. It was a weld dot, which put the high point of the rim, and the tires were marked with a paint dot to line up with that to help balance them. On the C3s, this lasted till sometime in '72. They say February or March '72. This usually, or this kind of left about that scene. They don't know whether the tire manufacturer stopped first, because I think they still found some beads on some of the rims without the ink or the paint dot on the tires at this point. 68 jacks, the first style, was the same as the 67s. It had the hex nut tack welded to the C bracket at the opposite end of the drive. The second style of the Jackson 68 went into early 69s. It had a square nut in the U bracket back there. It was not tack welded. If you backed it off, the nut could fall off of the shaft. And these were stored in the passenger's side compartment behind the passenger's seat. Unlike the C2s, where they were stored behind the driver's seat, the battery ended up there on the C3, so they moved the jack to the opposite side. 68 and early 68, they started putting this insulation in the compartment to try and keep the heat and the noise down a little bit. This kind of left by the end of 68. I think it was just in there from like about 10,000 in 68 up to about toward the end of 68. You can see the jack fastened in about the same way as it did in the C2s. Had a spring, the clip, this had a double U-clip shape on the opposite end, like the later C2s. Jack handle was stored with it. It was about the same as the C2s. Had the anti-rattle or the noise rubber piece on the end to keep the noise down. The instruction sheet, and that was on the lid of the passenger side door. You can see the had the tire pressure label up there in the corner also on these. The spare tire tub at the back of the cars, 68 was a little unique. The bolts were a little shorter on the front side than they were a lot shorter than the C2s, but they were the shortest one of the C3s. It was a 1-year only bolt. Things changed a lot on the bracket or the tubs and the brackets in the back end of the C3s. That basically you can see here how short the bolt was. There was no nut at the top like there is in later years to space it down. The C68s had the 7-inch rim, which was an inch wider than the 67, so the tub was configured a lot different than the C2s. The bottom tray, a part of the tub, was the same basic part number from 68 through 82. About everything else had at least 2 or 3 different changes in it. The strap part, the strap part right in here had at least 4 different part numbers in the AIM through the C-3 era, and I spent biggest part of last Saturday at a friend's house looking between a 68, a 70, a 73, 275s, 77, 278s, and an 82, and I could not find the difference in the straps. I checked the offset at the back. I checked the width, the length. Pretty much, I didn't find out what the difference was. So if anybody knows what the difference of the straps were on these, I'd appreciate you letting me know on that. Another thing to look for, this one's kind of an extreme busted tub, but as low down as they hang, they do get cracks toward the front edge from catching debris underneath the road. Spare tire lock was used from 68 through 79, basically all the same. It started in 67 with this configuration. 69 rim markings, you can see the K1 is off to the side of the year, and then the month and the date, and the AZ is on the opposite side of the valve stem. This pretty much continued through all the rally rims through 82. 69 and 70, it should have a little bit of a greenish tint to them. The jack in 69 started out like the late 68s, but then they went to a bigger, wider jack. And with this, they had to, you can see the base plate is a lot bigger than the previous ones. They were dated on the side strap toward the crank end. And with that, they had to lengthen the spring out because it was a little bigger jack. Went out to like 5 1/4 inches, made it by about 3/4 inches longer than the C2s and the 68 springs. You can see in 69, the bolt was a little longer, and they put a nut up there to space it down for the 8-inch wide rim. You can see there from the measurement that it was a little longer than the 68s. 70, you can see the markings there about the same. Jack was about the same for 70. Still had the date code on the sidebar. The jacking instructions still underneath are on the lid of the passenger side compartment. '71 rim, date code, valve stem cap. Jack 74, still dated on the side. '73, the instructions changed a little bit. You can see the original to the left and the reproduction to the right. Pretty much the same, not too much difference in them. However, the positive traction caution label, you can look at this one, and this reproduction is quite a bit off from the original. Spacing, the font size, the way it's laid out on there, it's a lot of difference between the original and that particular reproduction there. 74, here's the AIM of that. With the different rear bumper, they changed the strap on it was basically a 1-year only strap, and I didn't have a 74 to look at, but like I said, the 73 and the 75s I've looked at, the straps looked almost identical. Couldn't really tell a difference, but I'm sure there had to be something with the 5-mile-an-hour rear bumper that caused the change in whatever it changed. 76 to 77 aluminum rims. They are painted black in the center, and the slots are painted black. You can see here how it's painted around the lug nut area. The original rims had the made in Mexico, Kelsey Hayes in the back of them. A lot of the reproductions, from what I understand, does not have the made in Mexico right in this area. '75, the jacks were still dated on the sidebar toward the crank end. '75 AIM, the way it bolts up to the rear cross member is a little different. I mean, it's the same as earlier ones, but here in the later, it changes quite a bit. You can see here how it bolts kind of straight up to the bottom. A little bit later on, we'll look at the other, how they changed it. But the strap is different in '75 than it was in '74, and also the rear bolt is a little different. In '76, the color of the tire tub changed from a darker color as off here to the left to a lighter color to the right. So if you see a lighter gray color on a '75 or earlier car, more than likely it is a aftermarket or a replacement tub. The jacking instructions change a little bit again in '75. Still on the passenger side door, compartment behind the passenger seat. '76, they started dating the jacks on the rivet heads. You can see the year is first, and then the week is the second 2 letters. The year is the 6, the 05 is the week. Handles, still got the 3 holes in the handles. Bottom of the base plate had the manufacturer changed in '76, so they this started showing up on the bases in '76. The top cover above the tub that bolts up to the frame part of the car does have a part number molded on it. '77 jack. You can see the date code on the rivet on the '77. '78, '79 rims. The slots were not painted black, but the center section, from what I understand, is still painted black in this area. But as you can see, the slots are a natural aluminum color. '78 pace car was a highly polished. It had no black around the center part, but the slots were painted black. Had the red stripe painted around the outside of the rim. Just a close up of the center and the slots on the '78 pace car. Early '78 cars, we went to the Space Saver spare. Very early '78s, the rims were painted yellow, and they were YA marking on the rim, which was a 15 by 5 inch rim. You can see the Kelsey Hayes, the number 3 plant. It was in Pennsylvania, I believe, made the Space Saver rims. This was made in 77. Can't really see what the date is on that. The markings on the tires of the Space Saver were a little different, temporary use only. The size and the spec number for the Space Saver. You can see this rim is black. It's a later on 78. 78, they were still date coding the jacks on the rivet head. You can see the 8 for the year and the 06 for the week. Okay, in 78, the way the rear bolt mounted to the frame, the frame changed in 78 for the fastback, so they reconfigured the way the spare tire mounted back there. You can see it. There was an extra bracket added around the back of the frame. It's basically the same strap, the same bottom tub. The top tub has changed a little bit. We got a different part number in 78 on the top part of the tub up here was different, shallower. It set down lower on the frame to compensate for the smaller size Space Saver spare to keep it in there tight. There's just a picture of the bracket on the back of the 78. Another thing to note on these, this little U bracket was a little wider than the C2s. The C2s were like 2 13/16 inches from bolt head to bolt head. The C3s were 3.5 inches across here, so they are not interchangeable from C2 to C3. But the brackets look basically the same, just C3s were a little bit bigger. 78 to 81 jacking instructions changed a little bit again. 79, they started date coding the jacks on the crossbar on the drive end. Starting in 80, the rally rims for the year got a double digit for the year. You can see there, this is an 81 rim with the month off to the right and the day and the size off to the right side of the valve stem hole on this. 80, 81 aluminum rims were a little more polished. They were painted black in the spoke area, the slot area. There was no painting around the center hub. The center cap was a little different on the, had the 80 type logo, cross flag logo in there. Starting in 80, the jacks got a caution label on the side of the bar, opposite end of the crank. '82 aluminum rims, about the same. They were painted black in the slots, but you can see the center cap has the 82. It's a little different than the 81, 80s. Has the 82 cross flag emblems. A close up of the center cap for the 82. 82 collector's edition wheels were basically profiled after the bolt-on 67s. Had a center cap in there that there was a special tool on top of the jack to take the center cap off. The date's still on the crossbar on the 82s of the jack. And there's the little tool for the center cap to pull it off to get to the lug nuts on the 82s, collector cars. The label, so a little different in 82. Also, starting in 80, instead of having front bolts, we had basically what they call a hanger bracket. It bolted to the aluminum cross section. The whole rear end changed in 80 as far as the way it bolted up, and they had to reconfigure this because there was no basically cross member across here for the bolts to go into. So they bolted these brackets right to the aluminum cross frame for the rear end. The spare tire top tub was configured a lot different because basically there was no cross member back there for these two bolts to go through, so they bolted it closer to the back and also to the rear cross frame with basically the same bracket on the back as the 78s were. And there's the hanger brackets. And there's the one bolted up to the aluminum cross member frame at the rear end there. That's pretty much it for the 82s. We'll take a little break here if we got any questions or any comments. Anybody can add anything.
I've got a couple comments that were on the chat. First one was about the time you were talking about the 76, 77 jacks with the date stamping. I
Yes.
think one of the photos had a letter nearby. Does that indicate the month, or was that for some other designation?
That's 76 just got numbers, the year, and 05 for the week. The 7's got 7 for the year, 19 for the week. And the 8's got an 8 for the year and an 06 for the week. I don't know where they've seen a letter on these. The letters didn't start until I think the cross member. The cross member's got should have a year letter and then the day of the month. The letter should be for the month. If that's what they were talking about.
And then a related question on the date stamps, just in general, not necessarily specific to jacks, but in general, when GM stamps, the number that indicates the week, do they always start with number 1 being the week of January 1st, or is there a different starting point?
It kind of depends on what they're talking about. In most cases, yes, they start in January as 1. But I do believe there is some other things that started like when the model year. But they are most of the cases it starts at the first of the year.
Okay. And then somebody just commented the 76 aluminum wheels did not have the slots painted black. The judging manual needs to be updated to reflect this.
Okay.
And then another question was if those hanger brackets started with the space-saving spare.
No, the the hanger brackets did not start till 80. The space saver spare started in 78. They still had bolts at the front in 78, 79.
Okay. And then there was a comment on the 80 to 82 spare tire lid, the upper portion, it was riveted with pop rivets to the frame and not bolted like earlier C3s.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I get so much information. A lot of times I forget to add some stuff. So yes, don't feel free to say something. It's kind of hard to remember everything I got here, but I try and write things down so I don't forget, but that don't always happen.
Yep. And if anybody does have more chat questions as we move on, if you have a specific slide you want to reference, include the slide number in that chat question. It'll make it easier for us to go back to it. I did have one other quick question on the 80s aluminum rims. Is that the same lug pattern as an earlier C3, that they would be interchangeable if somebody wanted to do that?
Yes.
Okay. All right, that's it for the chat. If anybody has any other questions, they can unmute themselves.
This is Phil D'Alessandro in Arizona. I just want to mention to everyone that's on the call that our regional is officially going to happen in May. So if there was any questions about that, the national has said move ahead with that date, and then the national dates in Palm Springs have not changed either. So we're going to be the first regional in about 16 months, and we're prepared for it. And should you want to bring a car, we got a place for you.
Good to know. Thank you.
Guess if
All right.
there's no more comments, we'll move on.
Yep, I think so.
Okay. This is the 83 at the museum. I'm kind of really glad they did not go with these rims. They're a 15-inch rim, and I don't think they're real attractive, but that's just me. 84, 85 rims. You can see at the bottom of the right one, you can see the valve stem hole is offset from the center, and the left one is centered. My 84, I believe, is centered. My 85 is offset, but I've seen them both ways on the early C4s. From a 8.5-inch rim to a 9-inch rim, the offset is a little different in the front there. You can see it's about 0.3 inches deeper on the 9.5-inch rims. 84, the lug nuts had a stainless steel jacket around them with the metric in the end. They were painted black to match the center hub of the rims. There you can see that one's offset to the side of the center or the slot opening. You can see the valve stem and the cap, and I think this is off of my 85. And yeah, the rim's a little dirty, but the car's got 300,000 on it, so give me a break a little bit. 84 lug nuts and caps, little difference through the years. You can see the security locking lug nut to the right of the left picture there with the socket to fit it. This, from what I understand, is out of an 84. A good friend of mine sent me this. He was sure this come out of the an 84. You can see the thing here with the locking lug nuts. It's kind of the card to tell you which one you've got. So if you lose it, you know what to go back after. 84 jack. They use the foldable jack handle to jack it up and down. It's a little different than the later ones. Base plate. You can see the clip that holds it into the spare tire. These are stored in the spare tire. The warning label and the date code on the end of the crank bar there. The 84s, the jack handle was stored up by the radiator underneath the hood. I can see the little clip to hold it in, how it sets in the, there's a little opening there to slide the handle in, and the clip come down and fasten it in tight. And there is the jack handle for the pretty much basically the same through all the C4s. Jack instructions was on the passenger side rear compartment. An 84 rim and tire, and you'll notice the tire on the 84s, the Goodyear was recessed back in the sidewall. It was not raised like about all the other tires you ever see. 84, like I said, the jack was stored inside the spare. In 84, it was inside a clear bag. Later on, they're black. You can see the little clip rod here to hold it down in to keep it tight. There's the rim marking for an 84 Space Saver. FC was for a 16 by 4-inch rim. Also, there was an aluminum rim and a steel rim on these. The aluminum rim was with the better suspension and the power seat option. And there's the little spring clip fastened into the center section, and you can also see the rim markings here on the center hub part of the spare. The tub tray for a C4. There it's up under the car. The back bracket or the back lock bolt was a little different to hold it up. This is an 85 rim. The lug nuts had the plastic caps over the top of the lugs themselves. There's an 85 jack. As you can see, the handle is incorporated into the crank or the nut sticking out. The warning label is a little different. The date code still on the end, and also a part number for the jack is on the crank end on the pad part of the top. With the jack opened up, you can see an NY stamping in the base. There's an 84 jack versus an 85 jack. You can see there the base was a little bigger on the 85s. And you can also see the jack handle, the way it hooks into the hex bolt on the end. 85, 80, 86, 87, the lug wrench was stored in the storage compartment behind the passenger seat along the sidewall radiator. There's the caution or the jacking instructions on the lid of the 85. 85, like I said, they used a black bag to store the jack in, and the spare tire still had the clip that fastened them in there through the hook through the lug hole and held it tight so it didn't rattle around. I'm not going to go into these a little bit because I've ran into a lot of questions on what color bag went with what car, but there's green, blue, clear, with black lettering, clear with red lettering. I got a few more down through here as we go through, but there needs to be some more research done on what actual bag come with what vehicle on the C4s. Tire markings on the early C5 or C4s. The TPC spec number on there changed through the different tires. An 86, center was not painted black. You can see the center cap was kind of a polished or aluminum colored type. You can see the lug nuts caps are more of a gray, silver gray on the 86, not black like the 85s. 86 convertibles, 87 convertibles, they stored the jack handle underneath the hood on the tray above the passenger side front tire. It's held in with two wing nuts. 86 tire marking. You see the Goodyear, the letters are outlined with a raised letter, unlike the 84s where they were recessed back in the tire. 87, you can see the center section is kind of painted a gray, and it's kind of a dull center cap's not a bright aluminum, more or less, type. It's more of a gray, painted gray center section. When Callaway started making the turbo cars, they had a special wheel. The very first Callaways, I guess, used a standard tire, but then they went to these Dynamags made in England. There's an 87 jack stored in the spare tire, basically the same as the what started in 85. You can see the date code. It's got a different part number on the jack than the earlier ones. The caution label is basically about the same. No difference in that. The caution label on the this 87 spare was offset from the valve stem. Most of them I've seen are right close to the valve stem. There's the center section of the 87. '88 standard wheels with 16-inch, the 6 slot. If you got the better suspension, you got the 17-inch wheel with the more slots around there with this little centerpiece in there. The outside slots were a little bigger than the inside. They were kind of on a taper. Corvette Challenge cars used basically the same rim as the Callaways. They were painted white. They had Corvette on them rather than Callaway. They had die-cast magnesium made in England label on the outside part of the rim. '88 35th anniversary, the whole wheel was painted white along with the wheel weight. The center cap had a security bolt in it to keep people from stealing the wheels quite so easy. They had problems with the security bolts. A lot of people threw them away and put Allen wrenches in there. The valve stem was painted black on the 35th. There's the security bolt that held the center caps in, along with the wrench. In '88, they moved the jack handle behind the seat for all the cars, coupes and convertibles. That held there through '96. The lettering on an '88, you can see the outline with the head lines or grooves running up and down with the letters. '89, they come out with the tire pressure sensors. There was 2 different frequencies or groups of them. There was a white section and a black section. The different colors went to the different corners of the car. The left front was green, the right front was blue, the right rear was orange, and the left rear was yellow. You can see they labeled on the pieces themselves. This has got left front position. And when they put them in there, they put the caution label on the rim, so when you were breaking the beads down, you did not injure the tire pressure sensor inside. '90 rims. This is a set off the ZR1. You can tell because of the offset of the rear wheels were 11 inches wide, and they had a bigger offset than the front wheels here. A regular '90 rim. The ZR1s were basically the same rim, just wider on the rear. valve stem and cap had a valve stem had a like a chrome piece over the top of it with a hex type cap on it. 90 jack. You can see the jack handle still incorporated into the drive end head sticking out. This was supposedly out of a 90 ZR1. Like I said, I'm not sure on the color of the bags on what was what, but this was an original owner 90 ZR1 that said this is what come in his car. Tire markings for the 90, basically the same. The lines running through the raised part of the tire here. Instruction sheet for the locking lug nuts was with the cars. And there's the wheel lock, told what security lug nuts you had on the car. If you needed, lost your tool to get it, you could go back to the dealer and give them this number and they should be able to come up with what you had. 91 rims changed considerably. They were painted kind of a gray color, turbine style rim. They were date coded on the back. You can see this says 90, 12th month, 25th day or 23rd or 6th day. ZR1 rims were basically the same in 91, except for the offset in the back. You can see the 11-inch wide had to have the deeper offset. The tire marking changed a little bit in 92. We lost the outside, basically rim around the outside, and the lines were running with the tire rather than up and down like the earlier ones. '92 jack, the handle is still attached to the hex nut. When they went to the 17-inch rims, the markings on the Space Saver spare went to an XDX, and I'm sure the judging manual still say they're an FZ for the 16-inch. They probably need to update that. You can see this particular one is a made in 92, February 25th day. You can see the caution label is by the valve stem on this one. 93 through 96 rim. The front edges were kind of machined and polished more than the earlier ones where they were painted. '40th anniversary has the center section with the ruby red. A valve stem cap for 93 through 96 was black, just sticking out, didn't have any coating or protecting chrome plating over the side or the hex nut. 93, the early jacks still had the full-sized caution label, but you can see they did away with the handle on it, went back to the jack handle. And the later 93s had a smaller caution label. They also had a instruction sheet attached to the jack with a tether. There's the instruction sheet that's attached to the jack. 94 ZR1s, they went to the 5-slotted wheel. The rears, you can see, are offset a lot deeper than the fronts because of the 11 to the 9.5-inch rims. Storage for the jacks was moved into the passenger side rear compartment. They had a styrofoam block that it basically set in. 94 run flat became an option. Option in 94 in the run flats, there was something like not quite 4,000, around 3,700 people optioned the run flats in 94. In 95, you could get a spare tire delete, and they put this framework in the back end to help the rear end of the car on rear end crashes, so it would kind of hold up a little more. This is the piece they put in there to, after they did away with the spare tire and tub carrier and everything. Also, there wasn't too many spare tire deletes. Like in 95, there was like 418, and 96, there was like 986 was all. So you won't see this very often. Date code on the back of a 95, 9th month, 12th day. ZR1 95 front rim. Pace car had basically the same rims as the ZR1 in 95. Didn't have the wider rear tires though. 96, you had this two special cars, the collector's edition and the Grand Sport, had different center caps. Both used the five slot rims. The Grand Sport, the coupes, had the wider rear tires. The convertibles had the narrower rear tires. Valve stem in the Grand Sport. A locking lug nut kit for the later cars. There you can see a white bag with black lettering. And that's basically it for the C4s. Has anybody got questions or comments or add anything or tell me what I told you wrong?
Yeah, there's a number of chat comments. I'll start to go through those, then we can open it up to anybody else. On slide 264.
We'll get there. Yes.
All right, is there a reason for the lug with the open center?
Just the way they made them, and they were threaded on the outside. I left the cap off of that one so you could see the lug nut with the cap on one and a cap off of one.
Okay.
All the lug nuts I think had open centers in them in the C4s, other than the 84s, which had the outer coating or the stainless steel insert over the top of them.
Okay, slide 274. So here you show the wheel weight on the outside. If that is the correct location, do you know when they started going from the inside to the outside of the rim?
Oh, maybe somebody can help on that one. I've got it wrote down somewhere, but I don't have it at my fingertips right now.
Okay, feel free to unmute if you know the answer to that question. Another one was on slide 289. They believe that the wheels for the 88 were both available in 16 and 17 inch. So I'm not sure if you had mentioned that.
Yeah, the 16 and there's in 88, there's the 16-inch rim. And then this is the optional rim. This is the optional 17-inch rim in 88. So yeah, they both were. There's the 16-inch and there's the 17-inch. Both of them are 88s. This is a standard. This is on the I think it's the 51 suspension. Was the optional suspension to get this tire or rim.
Okay. And then somewhere around slide 300, when you were showing jack handles, there was one that looked like a C-3 jack handle, a little bit different from the others.
don't see anything.
Okay. Yeah, feel free to unmute if you wanted to add to that question. Let's see what else. See, there was a comment on the tire pressure sensors being that they needed to be in a specific location. What did they do about rotating tires? Somebody else made the comment that they did not rotate tires.
No, because the tires were specific for the right side and the left side, and they, in most cases, a lot of cases, the front was different than the back, so they could not rotate at all.
Mm-hmm. Then slide 318 for the run flats. They're believed to be an option for the base coupe and convertible, but not the ZR1.
Correct. No run flats on ZR1s or Z06s and the C5s coming up. Anything else?
No,
Mike,
Yes.
Go ahead.
Mike, it's Joe Wick. I had an 88th anniversary, and Gordon Killebrew used to give us seminars every year at Carlisle, and he indicated that the 88th anniversary wheels were powder coated, not painted. And I
Okay.
could tell you, I had a damage on one of my rims, and you could see that it was a lot thicker than paint.
Okay. That's good to know.
Okay.
Anybody else? You can unmute yourself. Just click the symbol that looks like a microphone to turn it green, and we should be able to hear you. If not, go ahead and type in the chat box.
I had an 88 new, it was powder coated white rims.
Okay.
Just as a point of clarification, on slide 292, the jack wrench was actually stored behind the driver's side seat.
Yes. Now say that again.
On slide 292, you
Yeah.
had mentioned that they were stored behind the seats. I just wanted
Yeah.
to clarify, they was stored behind the driver's side seat in case anyone's looking
Correct.
for it in the future.
Yeah. Did I say driver's side seat?
No, you said seat, but I just want to clarify that it was a driver's side
Okay.
seat.
All right. I thought I said driver's side, but I may not have. Like I said, I got so much information down here. I tend to skip over some stuff. So
Yeah,
thank you.
it's cool. I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Okay. We'll move on through the C5s then. No more else. Okay. Starting on the C5s, the 97, 99, they called the wagon wheels. Center cap. They were date coded, and even the center cap has a date code in here on it if you ever see one apart. The tire markings on the all C5s had run flats except the Z06s. There was no spare tire along with these cars with the run flats. The run flats was just a little bit different configuration. You can see the TPC spec number is a little different on this one than the earlier ones. That was engineered by General Motors and put on there. The tire makers had to make it to a certain spec for these. They were spec for each car. 98, they come out with the magnesium wheel. The back side of the magnesium wheel, date coded, size and part number. 98 pace car still had the wagon wheels. Just I presume these were painted yellow. They may have been powder coated. I don't know for sure. Maybe somebody can clarify that here in a little bit. 2000. Earlier rims were made by Alcoa, from what I understand. The spokes were a little different than the later cars. By Speedline, had wider spokes. I don't know if you can kind of see the difference in the spoke thickness here a little bit. The valve stem and valve cap, the back side of the rim markings on the Alcoas. 2001, the polished rim was offered. 2001 Z06, the earlier ones made by Alcoa again. The later ones were made by Speedline. The cast, they were Alcoas were forged. The Speedlines were cast. The radius on the spokes are a little different than the forged ones. They're more of a rounded on the cast. See the backside, you can see the Speedline logo down here in the bottom. Size, the rim. Difference in the back markings, like a dot matrix on the earlier on the Alcoa's type markings, or the other ones were cast into the rim. You can see the date codes on these. The Z06s do not use the run flats. They had an F1, what they called a supercar tire. Seeing as how they had no spare, they had this little compressor and a bottle of stop leak for the carrying the car with them. You can tell the compressor box, I guess, more or less. The 03 50th anniversary had a different shade on it. The center part was the cross flags and stuff was kind of the ruby red type color. Closer version of it. The valve stem and valve cap on the anniversary car. 2004 commemorative edition had a special center cap. The valve stem and valve cap on the or the commemorative edition car. Commemorative edition Z06 had the special center cap on them also, and they were highly polished, where the rest of the Z06s were not polished, had a polished shine to them, put it like that. And here's just some valve caps, different valve caps through the years. And that's pretty much the presentation. So if anybody's got any comments or anything, we can go from there.
And not too many chat comments. There was one mention that on slide 344, the dot matrix stamping is actually performed by a pin stamp tool.
Okay.
And then there was another mention, polished wheels were optional in 2000.
Yeah.
If anybody has any questions or I happen to miss your chat question, feel free to unmute yourself. Somebody had asked Mike if you had mentioned magnesium wheels on the C5s.
The magnesium, yeah,
Okay,
right there.
person may have
98.
missed that. Okay. And then there was a question on whether you have any additional info on locks for C5 wheels.
I don't have, I'm hoping, does somebody else out there have any information on that? I know there's some C5 guys on here. Guess nobody's got any comments.
Okay, just as a reminder, we will send out a link to this recording so you can view and download it, and it'll also be posted on our chapter website, and points should be awarded probably within the next week or two. Let's see, there is another comment, question. See, the 50th anniversary wheel color is called Champagne.
Yep. Like I said, I got so much information here, it's hard for me to keep everything in front of me and as I'm going through. So if you can add anything to it, I greatly appreciate it, because a lot of times, like I said, I overlook stuff and forget to tell you. It's kind of overwhelming, the stuff you find out when you start doing one of these.
Yeah, I can imagine. All right, so I think that's it. I'll stop the recording, and with that, we'll conclude our session today. We appreciate everybody joining in.
Thanks, Mike.